Most expenses never feel dangerous in the moment, and that is exactly why they work. You are standing in a checkout line or scrolling through an app, and the number in front of you is small enough to pass through your internal filter without resistance, because $10 or $5 or even $20 does not register as a meaningful financial event. It feels temporary, reversible, almost invisible. And your brain categorizes it as harmless, something that does not require analysis or restraint, something that will not shape your future in any measurable way. The problem is not the expense itself, but the way the mind processes repeated small numbers, because human perception is not naturally built to track accumulation over time. It is built to react to immediate changes, which means a single $10 decision feels isolated, disconnected from every other $10 decision you have ever made, even though mathematically they are part of the same system, quietly stacking in the background without drawing attention to themselves. If you slow this down and observe it carefully, you begin to see a pattern that is less about spending and more about perception, because the brain compresses repeated events into something that feels smaller than it actually is, and this compression effect allows dozens of minor transactions to bypass scrutiny, even when their combined impact exceeds larger, more deliberate purchases that would normally trigger caution or hesitation. Now consider the math, not in a dramatic way, but in a realistic, grounded sense, because this is where the illusion breaks down. If $10 is spent daily, it does not remain $10 in any meaningful financial sense. It becomes $300 a month, and then $3,600 a year, and over 5 years, it quietly becomes $18,000, which is no longer a small number. And yet at no point during those 5 years did the decision feel significant enough to question deeply. What makes this more complex is that these expenses are rarely tracked as a system. They are experienced as moments, and moments do not carry weight the same way systems do, which means the individual never feels the full impact of their behavior, only fragments of it. And fragments are easy to justify, easy to ignore, and easy to repeat. There is also a psychological comfort embedded in small spending because it provides a sense of control and reward without triggering financial anxiety. It feels manageable, predictable, and safe, which reinforces the behavior over time, turning it into a habit that operates below conscious awareness. And once something becomes habitual at that level, it no longer requires active decision-making. It simply continues. From a systemic perspective, this pattern aligns closely with how modern economic structures are designed to function, because pricing models often break larger costs into smaller recurring amounts, subscriptions, microtransactions, and convenience fees, all engineered to sit just below the threshold of resistance, ensuring that the consumer does not experience the full psychological weight of the total cost at any single point in time. This is not accidental. It reflects an understanding of behavioral economics, where the goal is not to hide the price, but to distribute it in a way that feels insignificant at the moment of decision, even though the cumulative outcome is substantial. And over time, this creates a steady flow of money away from the individual without triggering the kind of reflection that larger one-time expenses would normally provoke. When you zoom out further, the pattern reveals something deeper about financial identity, because people tend to define their habits based on how each decision feels, rather than what those decisions collectively produce. And this creates a disconnect between intention and outcome, where someone may genuinely believe they are being financially careful, while their cumulative behavior tells a different story. The shift does not come from eliminating all small expenses, because that would ignore the role of enjoyment and convenience in daily life, but from recognizing that small does not mean insignificant, and that repetition transforms scale in a way that is not immediately visible, requiring a different kind of awareness, one that focuses less on individual transactions and more on the systems they form over time. Once this perspective changes, spending is no longer evaluated in isolation, but as part of a larger structure that either supports or erodes long-term stability. And this is where the real adjustment happens, not in the size of any single purchase, but in the understanding that every repeated action, no matter how small it appears, is quietly participating in a much larger equation that continues to grow whether you pay attention to it or not.